Nightmare, and Lapis, all from Canada as well. I had no idea we were international.
Yeah, absolutely, man. With one of the largest LAN events of all time, one of the largest for North America, you got everybody coming out. We can't even just say that this is like the biggest of just the United States because we've got a lot of Canadian players here as well.
Well, we're going to see what these players can bring to the table as we wait for the matches to be lined up. The first map that we're going to be playing on will be Clam Blitz. Excuse me, the first mobile we're playing on is Clam Blitz. And the stages we have lined up, first, Snapper Canal. Second, Walleye Warehouse. And if necessary, third will be Port Mackerel. All of these stages have one thing in common where the goals are tight in a corner, and that's going to be really difficult for the team to really open up and make it safe for them to start dumping clams into.
So we'll have to see how well they can contest for that. And we've seen that Snapper Canal itself, as you mentioned, of course, it is very tight. Despite the fact that it has two very wide, very open courts, a lot of the clams spawn along those tighter areas, along the areas you can't particularly ink, you can't particularly cover well, because whether or not that body of water that stretches through the center cut of the map or along those outer edges, there's still going to be very important points to control, and it'll be very interesting to see how this sets the tone for this set of 3v3 as we see the Krew versus at here Scrim DM.
Now, these moments right here at the very beginning, the reason why we show this map is because it's very important to see how they're going to approach the objective. Are they going to fan out? Are they going to attack and head on? Right now, we see both teams starting to spread out. Dazzle over on the right side. Pycon flanking for his team. Nezzy and Pycon over there getting ganged up on by Pycon and Burton, taking out the first member. Meanwhile, blue team, I believe that is the Krew. I'm sorry, that was here's Scrim DM. I'm going to call him Scrim in this scenario. We are going to solve the trade right there. We have the first ball power clam going in the Krew's favor and leaves it right there to try and make sure it is clear all behind him. His teammate grabs the power clam and is trying to make a mad dash. Meanwhile, Dazzle, I'm assuming, feels more comfortable trying to make an opening for his team to push forward than trying to push the clam itself.
And I love these type of openings and tactics that these teams go for, where they understand they're much better off having a particular runner for the power clam, where there's players that are much more comfortable with being able to cover the map for them, get their specials ready so they can have an initial push. They have an understanding of how valuable each individual clam is, and the power clam, and what kind of information it feeds to the enemy team when who is holding the power clam, and if it's being held at all.
Speaking of information for the enemy team, one thing that each team can see is the amount of clams they have on their team. If you look up on the corners right below the team count, you can see that right now at Scrim has 13 power clams in their, 12. And right now, the Krew has 0 in their possession. So if you want to go by clan possession, they have the advantage. Not to mention the power clam.
And trying to hold that point at the power clam for Scrim, but they are going to get the first break and set those initial points. They have no one to extend control of that point, though. Krew managing to back them off. It's only going to be a 20-point game as the net closes back down, and the Krew has a very strong opportunity to be able to bring this back into their favor, at the very least for a tie, as Joey tries to press forward deep into enemy territory.
Yeah, utilizing that armor to really get through that scenario. And double splash down to put him into a corner, and they're able to open it up. Right now, the Krew are starting to make their push. Joey getting into one clam they needed to take a lead in the set, 77-80, and looks like there's nobody else near the clam, the goal to really open it up. But still, they do get a lead, and now it's in at Scrim's favor.
So a very slight lead at that too, and they have very small penalty points. This is very important because both of these teams, if they get the net open, can still very easily press forward into a deep lead. It's all about how well they organize their pushes. We already see that Scrim has a power clam at their disposal, as well as a good amount of other clams. Lapis holding 9 being a very strategic amount of clams to be held because you can control whether or not you have a power clam or not. But Lapis doesn't have any clams after getting splatted by Trev.
That's one thing I was going to say that is always good. You see Inkjets will activate their Inkjet from behind cover. That way when they explode, hopefully nobody else saw where they were at. But in that scenario, he was located and immediately shut down to that Splat bomb.
And Trey's doing a fantastic job for the Krew, being able to pick at whoever has the power clams, but he's already seen as a problem for Scrim. They're going to be taking him out at center point while Nightmare tries to push on with Beakon. and attempt to move this power clam a little bit further.
I don't know if that was the safest way to go, though. That entire area was just covered in green. That just did not seem safe. Nightmare getting caught up. Still with the power clam, and when you had the power clam, your team knows where we're at. Nightmare, unfortunately, not getting the KO off on his opponent, and Trey follows up for the KO, ending that push with Scrim's power clam. And now we're going to see if they're going to be able to grab that for a push. Wait a minute. Actually, the clam was opened up.
So it looked like at some point Scrim was able to push through past the net. They got themselves a fairly good lead. However, like I said earlier, the small amount of penalty points allows for a very strong opportunity for both points to be able to pick themselves back up. And the Krew is going to be able to get a power clam through a incredibly small lead. No one able to once again push through and keep the net open. But we see a couple of clams go into it. Going to keep the score at 65-70.
A strategy that he utilized to open up the goal at that moment was simply gathering your power clam while somebody else who does have a power clam is camping in the area, quickly jumping to them and throwing the power clam into your opponent's goal. That was the strategy utilized there, and that's the strategy that gave the Krew the lead. With 30 points left, Nightmare having a power clam, they need to get this in and they need to get this out. As a matter of fact, getting this in would put them to 60 points, and that would give them the lead, give Scrim the lead.
Lap is trying to move forward, collect some clams for Scrim as they have very minute control of the map. Everyone trying to organize themselves. However, the Krew pushing on through, sneaking on the side, just as I was warning earlier. Even though you can't ink it, it's still pivotal to be able to control that point. But Scrim's still not going to be able to press forward.
Yeah, they have 17 power clams at disposal and still not able to get a power clam together to the goal. This is their time. Oh.
And time's up.
That is, you can even saw the face of despair right there. Like, what happened? And I'm so shocked as well. He was controlling the enemy spawn so much. I'm sure we'll see his splats in just a little bit. You can see how much he has done. He was trying to get his team to push forward, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be that. The Krew taking the first game of Clam Blitz for the set. And we'll see if they can take that momentum into Walleye Warehouse for Game 2.
Man, that game was pretty back and forth, very tight, though, and that goes to show you how even these teams are. We should note, though, that this is losers, so one loss, one complete loss in this set. Whoever loses this best 3 of 3 will be out of the tournament. So the Krew, Scrim, those two teams are fighting for the survival right now.
Yes, their tournament life is on the line as we move forward, and we still have to worry about how they managed in Clam Blitz. And as you had mentioned, this has been very tight battles. There's been no definitive control over who's able to fight where. Every time we thought that Scrim was able to maintain the map, maintain a good push onto the net, the Krew managed to one-up them. It was constant back and forths. Now, whether or not that's the layout of Snapper Canal that's allowing to facilitate for that type of a firefight, that type of lack of control, remains to be seen as we move into Walleye Warehouse, which is a very different, yet not nearly as dynamic layout to Snapper Canal.
The big issue is that they both have that pit, like, right before the goal where everyone's going to be camping at. And there's not many places for you to try and flank your opponent to stop them from guarding the goal from above. From above, beyond being directly under it. I mean, yes, you can take the scenic route, we'll say, by going from the right of the center, walking up their catwalk and going all the way around, but that takes some time. So, I mean, what do? Stingray is always a very good option there because how thin the area is defending the goal. Of course, you have Baller. We're going to see some Baller no matter what. I'm fairly confident. But, yes, Clam Blitz on Walleye Warehouse with most of the clams spawning in the center. That's where the dogfight is mainly going to take place at.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how these teams are going to be able to contest across here, as we saw a lot of mid to short-range firefights between both the Krew and Scrim. I feel like Walleye Warehouse more facilitates long-range play, so maybe we'll see a switch to Chargers. Maybe, as you had mentioned, more of a reliance on Stingrays for contesting space. I feel like the Inkjets that we're seeing a lot of usage at Snapper Canal aren't going to be as heavily valued.
And Hangman, you can also mention, you're mentioning the long range. Short ranges do pretty well here because of how quickly they can get around, especially the shorter weapons that have Curling Bomb. They can just maneuver around the block. So they have a lot of places horizontally to get some cover in, especially on your team's side. We can see like where some clans will be spawning at. It's going to be a wild match as the game is getting underway. We're going to see how these players start approaching the objective, and three of them for each team goes to the center. One flanks both on the left side of your screen.
And it's just going to show just how important they're going to need that area in order to fall back on or to potentially have another avenue to place their clams. However, it looks like Scrim is going to be opening up with most of the map control and having more clams.
Notice the switch to Stingray, I'm sorry, to Clash Blaster, I guess Stingray as well, from Trey. The Clash Blaster, again, covering up a lot of corners, and Bert's trying to utilize the ball to get a KO. Unfortunately, that Splat Bomb, not with the same properties as Splashdown to destroy any sub-weapons that may be around, gets caught up in that one. But yeah, going back to the point, Clash Blaster being a very fast-firing weapon can cover up a lot of the points that people have to hide behind, and the Stingray being utilized to put pressure on your enemies while they're trying to guard their goal.
All right, we see a full-on push from the Krew. They're going to be getting the net open. They have plenty of clams in the area. They cannot afford to miss their shots, though. I'm noticing that's a consistent problem here for Clam Blitz on Walleye. But nonetheless, we see the points trickling down. Very different from game one.
It is 4-1 right now, 59 points, and you see Dazzle is holding off just a little bit to try and stall the goal for as long as he can. Dazzle having to get away from the goal. Still have 2 clams in his disposal. Meanwhile, you have somebody up on the right side defending them from the air. Dazzle and can't really tell. The action is really too frantic. But Dazzle also moving down there. They do finally move the Krew out of the zone, but not before they get knocked down to 26 points. Fantastic first push by the Krew.
And Scrim is going to have a world hurt ahead of them as they try to even up this deficit that they're looking at, trying to force themselves forward while the Krew managed such a definitive lead into this game too. That entire time, majority of the Krew was able to control the space with ink. Scrim is going to have to fight for space to be able to maneuver themselves, let alone being able to press onto the enemy net.
I like how Lapis is moving. He's not really moving to try and cover turf. He's moving just to cover the area below him so he can have a little bit of room to swim faster and, you know, keep his movement going. That's his main mode. That's his main play style. With the 10 attack, he wants to make sure he's moving around and keeping an eye on the entire battlefield as long as possible.
Power Clam at center stage from Scrim is going to be blowing up. However, we already see that they have one in control trying to come down the choke point. The Krew is looking to put a stop to that. That way they don't have to worry about any more particular pressure. We see a pop on Lapis from Trey. Trey trying to back up with that Clash Blaster, putting in plenty of work for getting these picks.
Talking about pressure, Trey was not falling to that one. Fell back far enough to get the KO with the Clash Blaster, as well as keeping himself safe by hiding behind the Inkable's block on the right side. He throws the Power Clam forward. They get another Power Clam. The Stingray is active, and right now, Scrim is down 4-2. We're going to see that blood pop in. So where they get the second Power Clam in is highly possible. Nightmare, the only one there to defend, barely gets the Power Clam in, but enough so to not only whittle away at the penalty points, but knocks it down to 23 points as well.
And that's going to have a devastating effect on Scrim. Now they don't have that many of the penalty points to act as a bit of a buffer to give themselves more space. They have to really assert themselves as they push forward, but I haven't seen any coordination from their efforts lately. We're seeing pick after pick after pick. And even though these individual players are positioning themselves well, overall they're not controlling the map as well as they could for the sake of team play, and the Krew is consistently picking them apart and separating them.
You can see Burst right now as well as his partner over there really doing a great job. One went right, one went left to completely see how much man wasn't able to secure the KO, but it was enough so much that he had to stop his push and fall back to his team. And that's exactly how you do it. Separate and conquer. You can definitely cover a lot more turf when you're separated. And whenever you're in that scenario, that right there is why you don't want to be near your partners, because you can both get splatted by the same person at the same time. Currently, they were just down 4-1, and now we see Joey starting to grab some clams. 43 seconds left on the clock. They have a power clam, not really in their game that needs to be pushed. All they need to do is defend that power clam. You know what? I have a feeling he put the power clam there and then throws it out as a bait to say they're not going to. They're going to come here. They want to stop us, and when they do, I'm going to pick them up with the blaster. That is a fantastic play by Joey.
We got the players from the Krew looking to chum the waters. They are trying to get out these singular kills with only 15 seconds left on the clock. They only have to bide their time. There is no way that Scrim is going to be able to pop the barrier, let alone make back such a significant loss lead at this point. It's looking like Game 2 is going to be going heavily in favor of the Krew, and this first set for the best 3 of 3 can be going to the Krew if they can secure getting this last power clam out of the way. bringing into overtime, it's not looking as certain as I had originally thought.
Unfortunately, did he actually get it in? The ball, we know they have the power clam available. They're moving in. They're under it. They actually
that's a lot of
activated.
clam.
This is important.
That's a lot of clam.
It is 43. They're dumping in 53 points. They're holding it down 4-2. They can still make this back with a proper play. All the clams are in the center of the map, and they're pushing them away from the goal. I think that's going to be the end of their push. Grim, unfortunately, losing the Clambers portion of this best of 3 2-0. But that was a fantastic last push to let TK know, to let the crew know, we're not done yet. You may be taking this ranked match, but wait until we move into tower control.
I gotta say, that was a terrifying ending for the Krew. Just as the clock was coming down, did you see how many points they were able to rack up so quickly?
So quickly, in a matter of 2 seconds, it went from 0 to 53. I thought they was going to have more, but the coordinated push, or defense, I should say, by the Krew, the blasters, all the explosions, the NZAP going down on the ground, that was enough to force them back, even though it was, only went down 2-4. Again, that's a significant amount to be down by, and they weren't able to continue on that push, but still, solid effort by here Scrim DM.
And Scrim still has plenty of an opportunity to turn this around as we move into the set 2 of 2 between the Krew and Scrim. We're going to be moving on to tower control next, starting things off with Kelp Dome. This is a strong opportunity for Scrim to be able to fight things back from Clam Blitz, where they may not have been able to organize themselves for the fight for Clam Blitz, thanks to how chaotic it could possibly be. This could be the type of game mode that can more facilitate their organized play if they don't get broken apart by the Krew.
Yeah, there's not a single push on this map and mode combination that isn't going to be devastating. You're going to see them trying to get off the center point. They're going to touch the tower and then jump off just because they're trying to initiate an emergency response from their opposing team. They're going to be pushing as much as they can to the left, to the right, trying to control that point. And then let's say they're fortunate enough to get past the first checkpoint. Then you have that entire bend to deal with. Stingrays are going to be active. Bomb rushers are going to be active. People are going to be shark or attacking from above, from the catwalks. It's going to be a mess from them, and we're going to have to see what team is going to utilize what strategy, including, I already know what we're going to see already. Arguably the top 2 specials in this game, Bubbles and Stingray.
Yes, we've already seen on stream earlier today that that combination is so good at being able to contest for all of these maps, in fact. Bubblers, because of how dynamic their layout is, the fact that you don't have to throw them all out at once, the fact that they bounce around very gently, it leads themselves very well to controlling Kelp Dome, especially because there's so much of a battle for elevation in this map. Looking at Game 2, Inkblot Art Academy, much the same. That in contention with the Stingray is going to offer a ton of control, but that's all dependent on whether or not these teams can get their specials and use them properly.
We'll definitely touch on more about Tower Control Inkblot Art Academy, which is round 2 guaranteed to happen, but hopefully we can also make it to Rainmaker in round 3. Hopefully, if Scrim is able to utilize here we go, the game has begun. We'll be switching to the gameplay in just a little bit for you guys. Y'all can see on your screen that Trey is utilizing his blaster. Is that the Class Blaster? Yes, that is the Class Blaster, still holding them down. You know what? I think the Class Blaster is going to be really good defense over that the choke point of the second checkpoint.
And you know, one thing I'm noticing in particular from both of these teams is that they're both rocking NZAPs. Specifically, the one that's packing its super armor. That ink armor going to be incredibly important if things are going to orient themselves more for firefights, which it seems that's how the battles have been going more for the Krew and Scrim.
And you also see that the Slosher Deco is being utilized for the Baller. You're going to be seeing that used to escort the tower as Beakon, with a single shot from his blaster, takes out Dazzle, takes out Nezzy. A splashdown takes out Joey. They have a 3-1 lead right now over their opponents, the Krew. And Scrim is letting them know again, we told you to wait for tower control. It's here, and this is our mode to win.
And they're getting pick after pick after pick as they move forward on. Bird's going to be sitting on the point, not going to get that much of an opportunity. Joey trying to bring this back in favor of the Krew. They're still in this. There is no definitive lead as far as the control of the tower goes. And so long as they can keep it from going past that first point, it's going to be a dead even battle between both of these teams.
I love how the blasters are not afraid. The toxic mist is there so that way they can't go around a checkpoint because it can cover up that entire area. Really, very nice idea by both teams to have that on the team. However, the blasters, they don't care about your mist. We are blasters. We have our own explosive radius. Let me show you how it works. And just shoot right through it. I love how the... Okay. I love how the selection bombs have a little smiley face on them as well. Let you know, hi, you're my friend, but I'm going to have to shut you down. Lap is over there battling with Trey, and Trey ended up having to hit the emergency button, allowing Scrim to continue the push, getting back to the 70 point and pushing even further as Lapis is now starting to make it safe for the team with the Stingray trying to block off Trey, gets caught off as well, and everybody else is right on that choke point being pushed back by the Stingray.
I like how Lapis specifically pressed backwards but didn't jump back to base. That way, they could be there to support their team, but still make use of all of the cover that's provided to them. And I feel like all of that cover is what really makes Kelp Dome such an interesting fight between these two teams. We're sitting in the infamous choke point now, and look at these picks.
Now, I understand what happened there. Unfortunately, I knew what Birch was doing. He definitely wanted to wait for the baller to come out so he can get on top of the tower, but he forgot that the baller cannot go through grates. You're not a Kraken anymore. You can't go through that like that. So he had to actually be on the tower, didn't have to be baller. He couldn't do that, and then he wasn't able to make the proper push. But they still collectively do get it to 7 points, and that is a significant push. From here on out, Scrim could have themselves just defend, and they'll be fine. As we watch Birch emergency exit back to the spawn point.
But they're going to have to defend for quite a while now. We still have a little bit less than 2 minutes on the clock. And the Krew, having not gotten past that first point, but a pick high in the sky. There are picks everywhere.
I'm sorry.
Points are dropping.
I don't mean to laugh, but that was hilarious. That was the ultimate divine intervention. And that's Slosher not caring about your special, not caring about your height. I will reach you. I am a 2-hit knockout, and now you're gone. Go back to your spawn point and think about what you've done.
All right, returning back into the tower at neutral control. We see Nezzy try to throw themselves right into the firefight, but it's going to be right into enemy fire. Scrim doing an excellent job of holding the tower right where they want it. Nightmare falling back is going to pop the ink armor. Everyone around in the area trying to make the most use of this as they try to fall back to cover, assert their dominance. We see a pop on Dazzle. Nightmare's going to ride the tower just a tiny bit just to misposition it.
Right there, he's also activating that emergency button we were talking about earlier. You activate the tower just to touch it, and now they're suddenly going to be launching their blasters, launching their bombs, stopping that initial push as soon as they can. But you touch it, get it off the tower, and then fall back so you can have the elevation. You can stop them from stopping you, and then you can make your real push. It happens very often. As we see that, we're still spectating Dazzle. He's getting so many KOs with that end zap. It's such a powerful weapon for turf coverage, for defense, for team support, for offense. Look at him gunning down. Oh, well, run away from that one. You can't, as good as the weapon is, it can't handle a splash down.
Considering the kit that the NZAP provides, regardless of game mode, it is the ultimate support item. You're able to set up so much ink for your teammates. You're able to support so well in firefights because of that consistent rate of fire that you were mentioning. That, along with the suction bombs, provides a ton of pressure. And then when you could drop that ink armor, you're giving your team so much utility in these fights. The longevity between that and good positioning, it leads to such a strong fight, and we've seen a ton of that success from both teams, but it's really looking like things are in favor of Scrim as they hold the tower as we go right into the clock, and Scrim's going to be taking game 1.
Again, Scrim is definitely, maybe they weren't so comfortable with Clan Blitz. Tower control seems to be more of their forte. They are looking really good right here. And I want to talk a little bit about Birch. I want to talk about his play and how he recognized a situation where he was not in favor to win, and he was not afraid to hit the emergency button to go back to the spawn point. A lot of people like to sit there and contest, say, I'm going to have to win this fight. But no, sometimes the best way to win the fight is to fight another day. So he chooses the time. When you get splatted, you have a 5 second, at least 5 seconds, because someone could be using respawn Punisher. But yeah, at least 5 seconds to think about what you've done before you have to wait for the animation to regenerate and then get back to battle. But when you activate the emergency button, which you can quickly do by hitting X to bring up the map, hitting down your control pad to target the spawn point, and quickly hitting A, you can target the spawn point and jump back. That saves you a lot of time for regeneration. It allows you to regenerate your health and allows you to get back to the battle from a different point of view to try and continue to aid your team in battle. So it's not ever bad to say, you know what, this is a fight I can't win. That's okay. I'm going to go back. My team, I'm still here for you.
And taking all of that into our game 2 as we move continuing into tower control, but this time on Inkblot Art Academy. Now, this particular combination we have yet to see on stream. That's a pretty deep, exasperated sigh, PK. You mind sharing what you feel about tower control on Inkblot?
This is a fun map. This is a very fun map, no matter what. However, that doesn't take away from the stress that it provides. The map, it starts off simple enough. The center of Splat zones, for those of you guys who play Turf Wars, for those of you guys who play Splat zones, you know that tower is in the center. That's often used to ink up, to cover immediate turf. It's all good and well. However, in tower control, that tower is gone in place of the tower that you need to escort. And that tower is sitting in the middle. You're going to see bombs flying on either side. You're going to see a lot of suction bombs. And not to mention, getting out of that pit It's not easy. You have a lot of points at each checkpoint for your enemy team to shut you down. Immediately before you even get to the first checkpoint, that first perch, right? Say you're walking from your point, the ink on the ramp where you cannot ink, that ledge right there. Noctobrush, a sloshing machine, a slosher, anything like that can just dump ink and just shut you down. You have a whole bunch of points, and we're going to see how this team plays as we have a lot of class blasters and a sloshing machine come out. Stingray is here as well. Every niche weapon you're going to be seeing for tower control is in play right now.
He presented it perfectly. It's all a matter about how well these players can take it into Inkblot for tower control, and sitting here, no one has made any initial push. We see a couple of points for the Krew. They're going to try to push it a little bit further, but they don't really have that much control of the map. I'm looking at a lot of purple here.
And look at Nightmare actually going over their first point. Trey realizing what's happening, though, putting the shots on there and not going down to the auto bomb. As he's going to try to get onto the tower. He is going to ride that to the tower. But no, I actually see he has his Stingray. I'm sure he'd rather favor that to help his team out more than try to fight back. Look like the enemy team went back to the spawn point after this Stingray as well. That's a sloshing machine right there.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot of that, hopping back to base, using the protective bubble of spawn, giving yourself the most distance, the most effective coverage with this Stingray, and especially on Inkblot, because there's so much natural cover thanks to the layout of the map. You're going to want to punch through all of that. You either have to go over it, which is going to require a lot of effort and a lot of proper positioning, or thanks to the Stingray, just light yourself right through. You get a chance to see where the enemy team is from anywhere on the map, providing a ton of information to the rest of your team. There's so much utility to Stingray here. I wouldn't doubt to see if we see a lot of it during this particular game from both sides of the map.
And speaking of having to punch through things, you see both teams are utilizing the end zap with the ink armor and the sting and the suction bomb. Most notably, the ink armor. They're going to have to get through that in order to really stop them. They're going to use the armor to try and defend themselves from the... They would not defend from that blast, unfortunately. Beakon right now living up to his name. I know where that's from, man. And you are doing the darn thing with that name. Getting those amazing shots. Pushing the tower quickly to the 32 point. This is their final checkpoint. If they're able to push it back, it's going to be a clean sweep from here. 3-1 now in Scrim's favor. Scrim is looking good.
They are looking mad good right now. They're pressing on to the point. They're going to have to drop off it just so they can try to contest the space in this firefight. But Nightmare standing on the point, dipping in and out. We see the friendly Stingray allowing them even more support, pressing back the Krew.
That was smooth. I'm going to do that in the club.
Look at that.
Just one of, well, let me not say that like that. Anyway, but still, I'm going to do that. That was smooth. He danced around the pole of the tower real quick and just ran around. Very nice. Class Blaster not beaten enough by Trey to really secure it, but Joey does clean him up. And now he is helping his team take that tower away from the zone. I think that's the end of this initial push, but... Oh,
what an initial push it was.
Come on, Beakon.
Look at that.
Stop it. You can't just body someone in the air like that. He's moving. He's looking good, Matrixy and all. Leave him alone.
He's not allowed to move. This
That's
is the Krew's map. They're trying to take this back. Scrim putting up an excellent offense, though. But with the map, the point returning to the center of the map, this is a lot of opportunity for the Krew to make a very similar push. They have a very similar loadout. They understand that these are excellent tactics being executed by Scrim. Why not just do the same thing?
Having to run away from the tower because that Stingray active from Scrim. And you know what? That's a great defensive play. Unfortunately, not enough to stop them. They were down 4-2 just a second ago. That charger coming through, and it looks like Beakon once again getting the KO with his blaster. And even though he goes down to Dazzle right now, he does not go down without a trade. However, Krew is starting to make a push, getting to 60 points before that tower is being escorted right back to the center until Trey shows up.
Yeah, Trey is not satisfied with only having them at 60, not being able to get past that checkpoint. He needs to hold the line for them so that they can try to get this initial push onto Scrim. Scrim not well positioned for this defensive line, but with only 2 players alive right now for Scrim, it's going to be very difficult for them to defend here as the Krew is pushing forward heavily with 3 of their squids. Flash Blaster Special at the ready.
You saw for a second Joey was a little bit held back by that KO. It's like wondering how exactly did I lose that exchange. Not sure either, but we are watching Trey using his class blaster, trying to catch the one over in the corner, not doing so, but is able to activate the Stingray. They're at a point 20. They took the tower right at the 20 mark, allowing them to keep the lead, but with 45 seconds on the clock, Scrim needs to take this out so that we can take this to a set 3. This is currently game 4. We saw the Krew take Clan Blitz 2-0, and currently Scrim is in favor to do the same on tower control, but only if they stop this momentum from the Krew right now, as we are now currently 4-3 in Scrim's favor.
with only 20 seconds left on the clock as we cover it down. Scrim is doing an excellent job of keeping the tower at center position. It doesn't look like the Krew's going to be able to break forward. They're going to have to take the tower, bring this into overtime, and try to press forward just to get those last 2 points they need to break the tie, but it doesn't look like they're going to have that opportunity. Picks left and right. The Krew is actually going to stand on the tower. 3, 2, 1. We are moving right into overtime. Nezzy holding the point as Trey tries to move on, get some initial ink forward. Dazzle on the opposite side, sharking, waiting to see who they can press back from Scrim. This is looking like a very realistic push as the Inkjet manages to press them forward. Stingray, I'm sorry, Splashdown coming down as well. All of these specials being organized so well from the Krew.
All right, there's that. I was just saying, right, that was absolute clutch. And I was going to mention, you can notice in the background while they were pushing the tower, Birch was just throwing ink at the base. He was not doing anything too aggressive. He was just, we need Stingray. You guys go defend as best you can. Don't get into any fights. Just target them and make them scurry. Meanwhile, I'm getting my Stingray, and that is exactly what came through clutch. He had Stingray, and immediately when he popped it, they targeted the tower. They knocked him off. He got on, and they were able to shut that down. But the Krew was forcing them themselves back in there. That Stingray, once again, was the significant moment right there.
And with that, the second set of this particular 3 of 3 is going to go heavily in favor at here Scrim DM. And this is showing a very different dynamic to previous match that we had seen in the top 12 cut. We saw how dominant the Krew was at Clan Blitz, how they were able to make use of that chaos and take a heavy lead against at here Scrim DM. Scrim, on the other hand, taking tower control to bring us back to a dead even, taking an equivalent 2-0 over the Krew and bringing us into the third mode, bringing us to Rainmaker, starting things out on Mako Mart.
Mako Mart, Rainmaker being a mode where we discussed this before, but I'm sure we're going to see the same strategy again because it's just such a sound strategy. You get the Rainmaker, right? And then you suddenly holding this giant golden fish in your hand. You're just like, if you were real, you would make a good meal, but you're not. So I'm going to go put you in the podium where you belong because you're solid gold. So then you're just like, what's the best way to do so? You see a box. And normally box, you just kind of ignore it, but that box leads to a very clean path to a podium to put this gorgeous fish at. She's going to go that way. Meanwhile, the enemy like, no, we want the fish to put on our podium, but they have to go the scenic route in order to get to you, and you're just kind of walking around looking at them. It's just basically what I'm saying. I'm sorry for the elaborate animation there, but what I'm saying is that the left path of Rainmaker over the block and down that big ramp is such a free way to net 40 to 50 points, especially if you get a wipe, because you're going in a path that not only nets you points, but takes you away from your enemy's spawn point. So that they take even longer time for them to get to you to cancel your push.
Very well said. And with this, we're going to have to see how this sets the tone for this third set, the real determining factor on who is staying in this tournament. As a reminder, this is losers round 1. The Krew and at here Scrim DM are fighting for their tournament life, and whoever wins this best 2 of 3 of Rainmaker is the determining factor who gets to move on. We get a quick shot of the teams as we move on to it for Rainmaker on Mako March, starting us off.
Right now, we see a roller coming out from Dazzle. I'm maybe a little biased now. Never mind. He's already the first one down. You know what? That proves a lot for me. All right, but we see Birch bringing in that Lost to Deco as well. We know he's gonna have the ball on deck. Beakon choosing to go down the left alley. Sees somebody up on the left side. Looks like that's Trey with his Clash Blaster, and he's going to throw a Toxic Mist and choose to fall back. Meanwhile, Nightmare literally picks up where he left off and takes the same path. I think this is the mirror match at that point. Right now, we'll see Beakon. I'm gonna say it's Beakon. No, that was Joey actually. Joey actually won getting the KO. And right now, it is 3-1 in Scrim's favor. They're pushing the tower, and look at where they're going. They're going to the left side, netting themselves 50 points. And no. There's ink over there. Somebody's waiting for them. It isn't as easy as it wants. Stingray goes through it. Lapis goes right under it. 35 points, 21 points, and their first push under 1 minute on Mako Mart. That is how quickly this game can change. Unfortunately, every member from Scrim is out of the area of the Rainmaker, so we're going to see the Krew start making their push.
And what a fantastic push that Scrim had led with. Despite all of the efforts that the Krew put forth, we saw the Stingray, we saw the organized clinches down upon those choke points. It's a very precarious push along the boxes for getting the most points that you can with the Rainmaker push, but none of their defenses were enough. Scrim pushing forward with a very strong press, and they're not looking to give up any of this pressure, trying to control the pop of the Rainmaker. They are going to get it. It's still sitting in the Krew's side of the field. This can be a very difficult defense for the Krew at this point. They're going to need at least a wipe. They need to go for these picks like they're getting. We already see them down to 2 members. Pico trying to sit around, try and go blaster for blaster, but coming down with the splash down. That's going to be that. Joey managing an excellent pick. And the Rainmaker sitting back at a reset. It's going to get popped in favor of Scrim as they move forward. It's going for a whole team push. Everyone coordinated, trying to move on.
What is it? Right now we are looking at Scrim DM and Pico actually camping over the left block, trying to make sure he can open it up for his teammate. Meanwhile, Trey is meeting him over there. Nezzy has the top, Trey has the bottom, and with the class blasters, that's a lot of team coverage just between those two. Meanwhile, we see Dazzle popping over to the left side, trying to make some movement, and some moves happen with this Splat roller using the curling bomb, and stopping the push right there before it goes any further. We can see that he is that line of defense. He is the one say, hey, I'm going to be sharking around, watching there for their approaches, and anybody I see coming around, I'm going to make sure I hit them with this roller and shut them down immediately.
Now, I know you had mentioned how it's very interesting that we're seeing the roller at all at this level of play on this particular map, and I'm actually really liking this pick now from the Krew because the roller's doing such a good job of neglecting a lot of the ink space that Scrim has covered here on Mart. The fact that they're able to just so easily deny a lot of movement options while also being very dangerous at close quarters. There's a lot of that focus for close to mid-range fighting for Scrim. They just need to be able to get themselves into position to make use of that against the Krew.
Talking about making use of it, Pico making use of the explosion hitbox from his blaster to pick off his opponents. Unfortunately, that explosion hitbox from the Rainmaker shield busting is a lot more than any blaster can ever hope to have. Even a Rainmaker initially, well, I guess the Rainmaker does have an explosion if it's his shield, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But regardless, we're going to see Joey popping over the target in the Rainmaker. It is a team wipe against Scrim, and this is not good for them because this is their push. This is their lead going away as with last a minute and 30 seconds left on the clock. Dazzle trying to get a KO, but they're quickly making the push. 42 points, 34 push, a splash down, ends it, and there's a wipe against the Krew. With 1 minute on the clock, you can't help but feel like that may have been their last possible chance to win this game.
I'm going to have to agree. A fantastic push it was, but with only a minute left on the clock, in change. Scrim having control of the Rainmaker, they can press forward as deep as they want. They can focus on just holding the Rainmaker, and they'll be perfectly fine. They're still mounting a decent lead on the Krew, and if they can manage the firefights well, they just need to be able to evade. And look at how Lapis is able to evade all of that fire.
Every single one of them. He went up on the blocks to chase them up there. Then he went down on the blocks. Then he went up on the blocks. And then he went straight over the blocks, avoiding everybody and pushed it to a significant point for his team. But now, Nezzy is starting to open it up for his team. They're making the push back. This is the last opportunity. But that Splat bomb forcing Nezzy into an inopportune situation, trying to open up for his team. But they lose the Rainmaker. And with 30 seconds left, 2 specials on deck, including the Stingray. For the Krew, this actually may be the opportunity for them to make their final push. As the Stingray does come out, it's active all in the entire line. But Nightmare on deck. How did Trey even get all the way up there for that positioning?
The positioning was just all over the place for the Krew. Unfortunately, they're going to be dropping their control of that point. That could have been the important thing that they needed for being able to take this back. But moving into overtime because the pop is in favor of Scrim, they're going to grab
it. He tried to grab it with the inkjet, unfortunately bouncing back right before he fell onto it. But still, Scrim, a member of Scrim, was able to recover the Rainmaker, and they do take this game. They are currently in a 3-game streak over the Krew after the Krew took the first 2 games in Clan Blitz. Right now, we're going to be talking about them moving on into Sturgis Shipyard, but that game was back and forth. They both made a push, and they both showed they both have the ability to make the same amount of push over that block and down the ramp, just around the market bit. Just around the market bit. Sorry, I'm sorry. But yes, but after that, like, Scrim made the bigger push, and you can't help but feel like that was due to a lot of daring do by Scrim and just pushing in as much as they could. That splashdown was clutch from ending the Krew's initial push and their only main push, and that was everything that they needed to really say, hey, we're locking this down. One more game and we're moving on. Sorry, the Krew, you gotta go.
They've only got one more game to prove it. If Scrim is able to take this last game, they can take this whole set 2-0 and bring us into the 2-1 finish of the 3-of-3 over the Krew. However, this game 6 that we're moving into is going to be Sturgeon Shipyard, which we've already seen is a very defense-oriented map for Rainmaker. The way that both teams are able to utilize the elevated surfaces as well as the high amount of cover to them for negating a lot of firefights. I feel like the inkjets that we had seen in Mako Mart is just a bit of a preview about how important specials are going to be to controlling the space here.
The main issue for certain shipyard, I want to say issue, I'm definitely saying characteristic because it's what makes this stage so amazing. The main characteristic about Rainmaker on certain shipyard is that there are two prime paths that you can take to get to your podium on the enemy's turf. You can take the left side over the block and up the ramp, or you can go the straight shot. And because of that, look at how they're separated. They're both taking the left and right areas to cover all of that, so that way if they start making a push, it's not going to be a free run for them. They have to get through their ink first. That's what I'm talking about. You have to separate yourself and have yourself running in the buddy system, saying, you know, two go to the left, two go to the right, one go high, one go low. That way you have as much cover as possible. The stage is big and takes a lot of ability to actively make it useful for your team. Dazzle taking advantage of the baller going away, trying to flank against his team, but not working in his favor, allowing them to make the initial, allowing Scrim to make the initial push, getting to 82 points.
And Scrim doing an excellent job with his initial push. They may have dropped the baller, but it's still in their control, sitting at 64% for the Rainmaker. Nightmare getting popped. This is deep into the Crew's territory, but they could return this just as easily. If Scrim can hold at this point, if they get pressed against the Crew from mounting an assault, they'll be able to keep the Rainmaker in a very well-defensible position. They just need to maintain the high ground. They need to make sure that they get their ink spread while they have the Crew pressed further back into the space before where most of the fighting is going, but the baller don't care about that at all.
I feel bad because, you know, the other blaster, he was just like, I need to leave. He hit him with his best shot, literally his best shot, and it didn't flinch. He said, all right, I'm going to try to get over the shield, which was a smart idea. Unfortunately, not able to jump, the baller going off, taking him out, but that was a good exchange. I'm glad we saw that. But right now we see Nezzy over there on the right side trying to carry it up, deciding he covered the wall just in case they wanted to, but now they're taking a straight shot up the ramp, running through it. Dazzle making the lead, getting them a beeline to 21 points. The Crew looking pretty good and ready to take this to the final game of the set.
Yeah, this isn't even the final push for them. They still have two players left on the point. One trying to fall back. They can't afford a team wipe right now, so Scrim is going to have control of the Rainmaker. They're going to have to see if it's going to reset, see how they can try and take this back, as the lead that they had previously held is evaporated.
I love how each team are using their bombs, not so much to pressure their opponent, but the more so just to cut them off. They see a whole bunch of ink, and you know what? They say, hey, our bomb, my bomb is going to be able to cut off this entire aisle, so they got to slow down even a little bit. Let me throw my bomb there. Meanwhile, we have a whole team wipe against Scrim, and here comes the Crew, this time taking the left alley, and they are going. One member does not make it, but with the Rainmaker in the alley, you're going to see a member of Scrim hopefully go to the bridge, but he's swimming right through the ink. It is 4-2, taking out one last member. He might be able to push it up there. Dazzle giving him the lead he needs. He gets KO'd by the Slaughter Machine. Birch holding it down at 1 point for his team.
A singular point, but in such a great position for the Crew. That Rainmaker is positioned perfectly if they're able to come right through that side path. We already see that Nightmare recognizes this, trying to take away any of that ink, any opportunity for the Crew to be able to fight against them. They need to hold that 1 point. They must go for a knockout now if they are looking to finish this right here and now.
Hangman, you are reading the situation absolutely perfectly. This moment in time right now is all on Scrim. Right now we're looking at Pico running out with the blaster, all having ink armor, but they have no other choice. Normally you always say, all right, let's go for the point. Let's go for the lead. Let's go for a little bit of push. Let's try to make a little bit of move right here, make a suicide dive right there. But in this scenario, you have all those options out. You need a knockout. You need to do what they did infinitely better and in one single push with only 1:30 left. Joey, third set, that third eye coming through. Jeez Louise.
Joey's picks with the blaster have been phenomenal throughout this entire set. The way that he's been able to pressure out the enemy team and figure out who does he need to target, who does he need gone. And things have just been going so well for the Crew as they've been able to fight back. Both of these teams are doing an excellent job. What are these kills?
Yeah, Pico over there just capping him off. Dazzle getting out of there. He said, listen, man, I'm sorry. I saw you go down. You'll come back in a little bit. I apologize. I couldn't save you. Dazzle going for the team, but fighting. You know what? Sometimes it's what you got to do. We're going to see Dazzle over there fighting off with the Slosher, but this is not a scenario you want. And against the Slosher, you don't want to let them have the elevation. That was even the Slosher who got the KO. That was Nightmare. And that's teamwork right there. He held him down in place with the Slosher, and then he said, all right, I'm going to go down to finish off the victory. Birch trying to clear off the area for his team. Not able to go down, but with 36 seconds left, they were able to get it over the hump. That is the first part of this push down.
They're going to need everybody to jump in, get this to a full 4-person push. That's the only way that they're going to be able to press back against this with only 20 seconds left on the clock. We've already seen that the Stingray has been utilized by the Krew. If Scrim can manage to get past this bridge, if they can get any type of, whether it's a triple kill or a full team wipe, they can manage this. The last 10 seconds are coming down. They need to be able to hold on to the Rainmaker as they press against everything at
Is that an inkjet? That's an inkjet!
disposal. That's going to be it.
You hear that sound, that whoo, right before the blaster shoots him. That was a good fight, but the Krew with that singular push that got it to the one pedestal, even though Birch was good enough to stop him before the fish hit that pedestal, put it on display for the whole world to see, he stopped it. But it still wasn't enough. Dazzle coming through for his team. Joey coming through for his team with the immaculate shots, direct shots with the blaster. That was just a great game, but the Krew showing a bit of life as we are here in Game 3, the final game of this second round, of this round in bottom bracket. The loser of this one will be out of the tournament. The winner moves on.
And in total, this is Game 7 that's bringing us for Rainmaker on Walleye Warehouse. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the narrative that's been painted by @HereScrimDM and the Krew. For the first set of this 3 of 3, the way that these matches in Top Gun have been played, the Krew had a dominant performance in Clam Blitz.
Very dominant.
Bringing us into set 2, tower control, perfectly in the hand of @HereScrimDM. We saw how their organization efforts were able to completely turn the tide of the battle. We bring it into Rainmaker. All of a sudden, it's looking like a very even battle, with the first game going to Scrim, second to Krew. Krew looking a little bit more dominant in their performance here, but still, they couldn't manage the knockout, no matter how impressive their pushes were.
Exactly. They showed that they are, Scrim showed that they are resilient. They are not going to let it go. They're not going to accept, not even accept the loss. As long as there is time left, they're going to make that chance. And you know what? They did a pretty good job. They got over the hump. They got to that second ramp. They just couldn't force it right through. And I mean, that's a pretty tight spot to do it, especially in overtime where everybody's senses are on spidey levels right then. Something's tingling to the right side. Bombs everywhere. Like, of course, they're blasting everywhere. So you can't blame them for going down there. But that was still a stalwart push by Scrim. And now, I mean, I hope they're happy. I hope that their Twitters are blowing up. Hey, I want to scrim with you. You just showed off some good gusto. Let's go right now. But you know what? They're going to have to wait until after this match to see if they're available after this game or if they get a few more bracket matches to play.
Yeah, they certainly have an opportunity to go in it as we move to Walleye Warehouse for the final game of this final set between the Krew and @HereScrimDM. Walleye Warehouse being a very interesting map for this finale because it takes a lot of the best aspects of Macromart, a lot of the most dynamic aspects of Sturgeon Shipyard, and blends them together.
You're absolutely right. There's a reason why this is one of the most popular stages from Splatoon 1. Now, you notice that that TK, the Krew, they all went into a direct push. They went to the middle, and then they fanned out. Meanwhile, Scrim, they separated immediately, and then they started to come together. I think the way that Krew played it was optimal right now, because right now we see Dazzle getting picks off from someone who was trying to flank, and then they're pushing up the right side, and it looks like Nezzy is defending him right there, stopping him immediately with the Splat bomb and the shots. Trey moving through there. Got to make sure you don't jump through there. Oh, but getting shut down immediately by, that was Birch. Of course it was Birch. Them coming through there. But look at that quick respawn he had. He wants to fight.
Yeah, they're looking to make sure that they get back into the fight as quick as possible because they've recognized that the entirety of this set has been quick picks back and forth. There's been very few total team wipes. However, now turning our attention to where that Rainmaker is moving, Beakon trying to press a definitive path for Lapis as they press forward. They're trying to move back that central point, and now they've got their numbers on the board. They're going to get the lead.
And look at Pico right there, using his blaster to cover the ledges, not able to save his partner, but is able to stop the KO and the impression from Dazzle as Trey gets the immediate follow. However, we are in a we were in a 3-1 situation with the Krew in control. They currently are losing to Scrim 34-66 as Birch gets the KO on Nightmare. Oh, excuse me, Birch got the KO. And now we see them pushing forward. Birch is defending, covering turf, just like a Sasha does. And you know that Io, he's waiting for there it is. He's waiting for it.
They have no vision that way. They have no idea that this point is so well covered by Scrim. They try to move it forward, and it's going to give us a bit of a point advantage. However, Scrim is all ready to grab this. They have a clear avenue for them to press forward. We see the Slosher Deco hop back behind them. Birch at it again, trying to get these picks, already focusing on Joey. getting a clear path. It looks like they're trying to go up, whether it's the heavily guarded choke point or possibly even the ramp. If they just go for the straight shot, a very risky move, but it could be what they need.
The amazing thing about this match right now is that you can feel the urgency in these two teams. This feels like it's the final minute. Like, you would think it's less than 66 seconds on the clock. They're both even 30-30. I mean, they're essentially both even 34-44. However, the point advantage is in Scrim's favor. You know that they're trying to turn this around from the negative loss they had back in Clan Blitz, trying to take this as they lose control of the Krew, making a mad dash towards the podium. Nezzy in their zone, hiding behind the pedestal, and Birch right there once again with the immaculate defense, making sure that Nezzy isn't too much of an issue for his team.
This frantic push from Scrim, trying to get the Rainmaker out of their play, trying to see if they can get another lead. You make an excellent point. They're playing like this is the last minute because for all of these players, this could be the last game. They need to make these mad dashes, make these bold plays to press against their enemies if they want to stay alive in the bracket.
You also notice that they don't shoot the Rainmaker too far. I mean, yes, you can shoot it rather far. However, they make sure they cover the turf immediately in front of them, though, in case somebody may have snuck through while they were charging up. Because the Rainmaker takes a significant amount of shot. As you can see, somebody's up there throwing Splat bombs towards Birch. Birch is actually calling for his team. This way, I need help. They have 22 seconds left on this current push by them as he runs to the completely opposite direction. You know what? This actually may work in his favor, but the blaster is chasing them down. We have a screenplay of Birch. You can tell he's probably, actually, he looks pretty calm, cool, and collected.
You need to stay calm and cool in these kind of situations. He's going to get splatted now. He's not looking too happy about that. But in these high-pressure situations, you need to keep yourself collected for the sake of your team. You need to remember that this is 4v4. One of these players dies, they're letting down 3 other people. They need to have that pressure on them, recognize the situation, but let them build up.
Right now we have a team wipe. Scrim was just down for 2-0. Now currently 2-3, trying to claim that zone, but unfortunately spent too much time popping the shield before the team could actually regenerate. So now Scrim actually has control. Less than 1 minute left on the clock. This could be their final push. They need to make it all count.
And both of these teams have completely disregarded the heavily guarded corners. They are both going for mad dashes towards center stage. Trying to get themselves up that ramp is becoming such a difficult issue. Lapis is going to get stopped immediately, and the Rainmaker stopping on that ramp with only 30 seconds left on the clock. The Krew needs to be able to hold this point, prevent them from holding.
And you have to ask yourself, what is the safe avenue for going up? Because there's only 3 routes. This is a thin stage, and that immediate area is very thin. They're throwing Toxic Mist on the left side. Wait a minute!
They're not able to get it on, though, with 8 points left on the clock. Pico trying to splat down, but he's going to get hit by Dazzle.
Scrim just snatched at that once again, another mad dash that gives someone a lead. It wasn't enough, but this is now the Krew's last push. 3 seconds left on the clock. We are going into overtime. Who is going to take this out? They have less than 1 minute left on the Rainmaker. Currently 2-2. Who is going to be able to close this one out? Nezzy catching off Lapis before he's able to choke him, catch him with the flank, but he's getting caught with the retreat penalty now. That clock is going even further, and that was immaculate play, holding them back, forcing the Rainmaker to go down, getting the team by forcing them around the corner, having nowhere to go, and Scrim with the amazing comeback, taking that over the Krew 2-1 in Game 7.
And that's going to be it for this set play. At here, Scrim DM managing to take it over the Krew in the final Game 7 with a phenomenal job. That last-minute push, both going back and forth between the Krew, between Scrim. They knew that they had to make those bold, risky plays,